There are three levels of reality. The one that Joe Blow lives in, that watches the 6 o'clock news and reads the magazines in the stores, that's the bottom level of the matrix. If you get up into a higher level, into CIA, above professorship level, you're into a new realm of science. It's much more advanced. Nick Begich showed us technology used in the 1950s by the CIA. He demonstrated on the television on the Wendy Mesler show, CBC, and these little handheld remote devices could put thoughts into your head, into the middle of your head, from any distance line of sight. And this was all antique technology, which the CIA possessed in the 1950s.
Oh, yeah, and it's even better now.
So that's the middle level, and above that, the controllers themselves have the ultimate weaponry, and they don't even give that to their helpers, the CIA.
Lord Rothschild of Britain is never on the Forbes richest list, yet his family is worth billions.
When they took over the Bank of England, they had it written into the charter with the royalty that they would never have to disclose their profits. So they're not audited at all. There are 13 major banking families which comprise the World Bank. If you look at what we did in Yugoslavia, then Afghanistan, then Iraq, the first thing in was the World Bank, the centralized bank, then the World Bank. And then the UN moved in UNESCO to teach the children, the first generation of children. They always bypass the older people and go right for the children to bring them up in this new system. But the World Bank has been set up in each one of those conquered countries. They only have Iran and Syria to go next.
The chaos you foresee, what will it be?
I'm sure they'll use all of it, the standard, I call them the standard techniques of famine, and that will happen very easily in a plague, because they've already said on television that no food will come into the cities because there'll be no transportation allowed back and forth. So you'll have famine, plague. Earthquakes are caused, of course, by HAARP. It's written into the United Nations Charter in the 1970s, I think 77. They said the HAARP technology must not be used between governments in warfare times because it can cause floods, hurricanes, and earthquakes. So earthquakes can be caused as well, and of course war. So we'll have all of the usual Revelation stuff, because Revelations is a revealing, it's not a prophecy, it's a revealing of a plan.
Scientists, primarily microbiologists, who have been dying around the planet over the last several years, I think they're up to like 80 now, very unusual. Are you aware of that one?
Yes, and it makes sense because scientists who are into that particular field know how their own theories of viruses simply evolving. They know that there are certain patterns and stages they must go through. So when they see something jumping a few stages and obviously heading towards man, then man himself has interfered to make it so.
So how do we fight back, Alan? What do we do about this?
I've been telling people to rapidly inform themselves with the ammunition, which is the data from those who are putting the books out on the agenda, like Jacques Cousteau, who gave the interview and said that about 70% of the public would have to be killed off. These great heroes they give us. And once you have the information, then you tell all your politicians and you bombard them and say, look, we know what's coming, we know what's going on, we know what you're up to, and it's not going to happen.
Can we win this battle?
If we definitely tell them, we're educated now, we know what's going on, you got to stop it, because if we don't stop it, they're going to do it. And once a plague is set upon the public, it will be chaos, panic, and people will simply do whatever they're told.
All right, let's assume the European Union does it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Can we, as a United States, as a country, can we battle all that by ourselves?
I don't think so. I think they want this worldwide. They've said themselves that this particular plague, which they just know is coming, it's the first time in history that you can actually tell you it's just coming. It still has 6 jumps to go to get to man from animal, but they can tell it's just going to take this out of thousands of directions it could go. They just know it's coming our way. It's going to take 5 years of pandemics springing up and dying down worldwide before it will eventually die off. Well, that's 5 years of chaos, repetitive chaos, and a lot of the public will be killed off during that whole thing. We have to prevent it before it starts. And that's why we got to tell them all, hey, we know what's going on.
They want to go from 6+ billion to 500 million.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I guess they believe they can run the world on that amount of people.
Pike, the Pope of Freemasonry, who wrote Morals and Dogma, he belonged to the Rite of Perfection, or the Scottish Rite, which was not Scottish at all. That's another story. And he said there would be 3 world wars, 2 with Germany, and this was a letter in the British Museum that he wrote to Lord Rothschild, and he said the 3rd one will be between Zionism and Islam, to be fought in the Middle East. And he said it will involve the whole world and cause such chaos that the people will be so sick of religion at the end, they will allow an age of reason to come in where a scientific elite would run the world.
Is this also then a plot to do away with religions and beliefs?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Pike was very adamant on that they would keep playing it up as the war dragged on, that religion was behind it. And people would be so disgusted with it all that we'd put ourselves under the new high priests of science.
The creators of these events, were they geniuses?
You could say they were definitely geniuses if you understand the term genius. A genius came from genii, and of course the elite of Greece, who all studied in Egypt, such as Pythagoras and Plato himself. It's the key to the mysteries, actually. They claimed that everyone was born with a soul, but you had to seek for your spirit to unite with your soul in the physical body. That was the Trinity. And when that happened, the genii collected with the soul, and you were complete. You were a genius. You had knowledge beyond the norm. They truly believe that we are just walking physical beings as compared to themselves who have spirit in them. We're just machines, basically, to an extent. We are the dead, as they call us. That's the same name that's used in the New Testament. Let the dead bury their dead, those who cannot understand. They do believe that we are there to serve them, and always have been, and that literally the time is coming shortly where they have no further need of most of us.
All right, let's go to our first-time caller line.
Hello, Alan. I listened to your video today. Well, you know, sometimes I have the feeling that I truly am gazing upon the countenance of demons when I see people like Rumsfeld and Cheney.
Yeah. That's closer to the truth, actually, because in reality, these guys, in the higher degrees, and I've had them explained to me by very high Masons, in the higher degrees, they claim to take on a higher entity with every degree.
Well,
and so when you're looking at a Kissinger type, you are looking at a high entity that's basically taken whatever is left of the person.
By the way, here's something. I got a phone call several weeks ago during one of my open lines, Alan. How old is Kissinger? Because I remember him during the Vietnam War in the 70s.
Yeah.
Here we are, 36 years later. The guy hasn't aged a day.
You're right, and that was given out initially by the Rosicrucians in the 1500s with Francis Bacon, John Dee, and all involved, because they made it known that those who would help them towards the great work, as they call it, would be given life extension, and that is a fact. They are given life extension. I've seen some of the high Masons myself who've been up there into the higher degrees. I've seen a guy in his 70s run in the summer 200 yards with a big long ladder, and he wasn't even out of breath. In fact, his mouth wasn't even open to breathe through his mouth. They are given a life extension, a much higher medical treatment than Joe Average. There are 3 realities, 3 levels of reality. We're at the bottom level from professorship down, and these guys are given superior treatments, absolutely. And it's the same with Maurice Strong, who works tirelessly for the United Nations. He's in his 70s. He puts in 14 hours per day, travels all over the world, and doesn't come down sick. And that's standard with the high Freemasons. They're all the same. Benjamin Franklin was one, too, and he was the same, yeah.
Okay, Ellen, I know how old Kissinger is. I'll let you guess first. What do you think?
Well, I saw him in a Jeep when he was driving Ike about in World War II. So I'm not sure. He must be in his 80s, maybe.
Yeah, 83 years old.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't look it.
They tried to interview him coming out of a car about a year ago as he was attending the Hollinger Newspaper Corporation. He's a shareholder there, along with Barbara Walters. And when they went up with the camera to him, I kid you not that the guy pirouetted around, pulled his coat over his face, and he ran up the stairs like a teenager. Yeah.
He didn't want anybody to see him, huh?
Yeah, and he ran up those stairs like a teenager.
George, excellent program. Almost was going to say I wish you'd hold him over for another hour. There's so many questions to ask him. It's unreal. What about your safety? And do you ever worry about that?
Yes, safety, when you realize what's coming ahead, I think it's a bit crazy to worry about safety. This is the time to speak out because it's the only time we have is now. And yeah, I've been threatened before, and I've had security agencies come up my way at night without lights when I've been walking the dog and sitting 20 feet from me just to annoy me, you know. I had my previous house almost burned down after I started the radio broadcast on Sweet Liberty. They still continue every Wednesday in sweetliberty.org. So it doesn't matter to me. If I die, I die. I know there's something beyond this. I think it's more important that you do what you're supposed to do when you're here. You don't sit back and allow it to happen when you know what's coming.